Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is it's the first day of November 2024, and welcome to our show today. First off, we have Off the Grid with Dr. David Kent, Ralph the IT guy, and Karen the Riveter. In the second hour, we have Jay Snipes is coming back on, and we're going to talk about the election fraud that's going on, because you can't look at this with any seriousness and say that there's not intentional nefarious activities going on. It is not possible, I suppose, unless you just don't want to see it. But at any rate, hey guys, how you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. Looks like one of my lives is not going here. I'll have to see which one it is. Let me see. We got a problem. Houston, we've got a problem. Let's see. No, okay, we're good. So anyhow, what's happening in your world today?
I want to share some stuff I found.
Don't ever start at once here, you know.
So this is, I found this metal detecting. It's an 1824 large cent, United States large.
Very cool.
Here is a 1825 half cent. Pretty cool. This is a Civil War token for groceries in Detroit. Can't see it. And this is the ultimate find. This is a eagle button from 1790, George Washington's Continental Army.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. Silver coin.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Really cool old finds.
That's very cool. So it looks like I hit the one of the other format buttons there. So you found it where? Where did you find them?
Downtown Farmington. There's a big mansion that was a governor's mansion from 1840. It's a governor's. It was an old governor's house from 1840. Yeah. Those are my cool things I wanted to show Ralph. Some of the stuff I found.
Oh,
yeah, although this is pretty rare to find this. Usually we don't find that much.
Yeah, that's cool. I love the historical preservation kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm just wondering, like, who held that coin before they lost it, 150 years ago.
It's a lot harder for people to rewrite history when you've actually got tangible proof of it.
Which is probably they sure are rewriting history stuff down,
Boy, I think we've got some kind of like delays between us today for some reason. The connectivity seems to be not great today.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it?
But they are rewriting history, They're really trying to. And you just imagine how many times they've done that in the past, and what we think is history may not be the actual case.
True enough. Did you see, I just saw something pop up right now, that the DNA test delusion, mass marketing of genetic testing, has little to offer most people, and it's falling apart, and it's a big problem for 23andMe. So it looks like 23andMe has got some real serious problems right now.
I've been trying to figure out for several years now how to do DNA sequencing at home, and it looks like it's nearly practical. There's a couple of ways to do it right now that are fairly expensive, but I don't think it's a good idea to send your DNA off to some big, huge database like that. That's a privacy nightmare waiting to happen. Even if they do manage to have decent safeguards policy-wise for themselves, it's still an enormous target for hackers. And that data gets out there. It's permanent. It's not like a password. You can't change it, Not easily.
And they have all been hacked in the past. And I think they do that purposely because they're not allowed to share the data. And that's why these hospitals and medical records and labs and stuff are always being hacked. They do it purposely so they can share our information. And I don't know what they're doing with it, but I can imagine that it's targeted warfare against individuals or groups of people, based on their genetics.
Well, my parents participated. My dad is really into genealogy, And I've tried explaining to them that they have made me vulnerable in that way. Because I'm like, there's nothing I can do about it. I didn't have a choice in the matter. My genetic information is on the web because you put it there and you didn't ask me permission. You didn't give it a lot of forethought. He was just into genetics. I'm not blaming them, but it is a thing, but he's got to the point where other people are sharing the photos that he has provided on their information, which is kind of cool because he's provided so much genealogical information about so many people on the web. He's helping other people figure their things out. He's got us back to Europe. But so there's a lot of interesting stories in there. He's enjoyed it. He's helped a lot of other people. Even where they live, there's a lot of other people that have never looked into it, and he'll get into it just for fun. But my genetic information is out there because you didn't think about that, and there's nothing they can do about it anyway. So I'm not upset, but it's like, well, I guess I better not show up at a crime scene because they'll find it.
It's a really good point, though. We just have to assume, Karen, that they have our genetic information, somebody with nefarious plans for it.
Well, they have it. You take a blood test. You've got it because they've got all of the systems tied in right now, and the labs and such. I think that this the degree of connectivity through Palantir is just incredible, of what's going on and how much information they have. They literally, I put something on my Telegram channel yesterday, and this was actually because of a friend who actually had this and handed this text message over to me. So this has actually happened to a person in Michigan. And I want you to see this. This is crazy because it was right after she voted, she got this in a text message. A voter has her address there, may not have voted yet. This data could be out of date. Go to early voting, blah, blah. This is right after she voted, which absolutely tells me that it's like the creepiest thing I've ever seen, that they actually have all of the information of the people in her household, that there were other people there at that address that they know have not voted yet. And so the amount of surveillance going on, that they know that she voted, that other people in her household didn't vote. And so it's like, this is like serious electronic surveillance. They've got your location, they've got your action within and with the government being surveilled. I'll bet you, because when the census came out, and a friend of mine got one of the censuses, and it asked, when do you leave for work in the morning? Do you leave here? How many pets do you have? I mean, it was things like, when do you eat type of thing. It was that sort of crazy invasive questions. But to receive a text like that right after you vote, is crazy. Which brings to my next point here. And I'm going to show you part of this letter because I'm just going to flash it here a minute. And hang on, I'll show you. This is from the morons at Byron Township, the communists at Byron Township. All right there. Donna Brandenburg got a letter from them. And you want to know what this says? This is how they've been harassing me. Yesterday, I got another hidden tax bill from the county that I had no idea that it even existed. They're trying to grab my land. I can guarantee you this. So this is what it is. To whom it may concern. Now, I want you to remember, think about this in light of the right to farming. Think about this in the right to food sovereignty, the fact that we need to raise our foods. What they're trying to do is they're trying to develop every inch of land, destroy all of our farming So we are basically put in a pen in their cities and have to depend on them. And if we don't behave, they're gonna choke us out. To whom it may concern, greetings. Screw you people. You know, it's like the township continues to receive contact from several Byron Township residents who live in the immediate area around your parcel. The issue does concern a rooster on your parcel crowing audibly and somewhat constantly. That isn't true. According to the information received, this audible crowing has become somewhat annoying and or disturbing to your neighbors. The township does ask for your cooperation in the value of maintaining a good neighbor relationship, asking you attempt to adhere to the good neighbor policy. And I'm like, you know what? Guess what, guys? We have right to farming here. I am actually zoned and grandfathered in under right to farming. And I'm so sorry that you all don't want me raising food. Maybe it's because I haven't given them free eggs or jealous. That's what it is, right? But the reality is that in any town, you may have chickens in your town. You may have them under right to farm. You have the right to raise your own food, and they can't do a damn thing about it, and they're choking us out. This is one of those things.
Does anyone live close enough to where the supposed
Which is a
rooster
great question. My driveway goes a third of a mile back into the property in the woods, right? The closest house to those chickens is on the other side of the barn. So the barn provides a deal. And I give them all eggs. And I know them. There's nobody there complaining, right?
They're making it up. They're making it up.
They're making it up. There's woods on the other side of the property. Anybody else is about a quarter of a mile away from our farm. And so this is actually, let's go down the history of this, right? They allege that I was renting out a house on the property, which my daughter lives in and does not pay rent. My special needs daughter. They allege that without any proof. Then they came on my property, passed the no trespassing signs, private property. They handed an envelope to one of my employees, which was open. It was not sealed, signed by Peggy Sattler, the township clerk, and said, you have to take out a business license. You're running a business. Well, first of all, you idiots, where's the tax return? You could have looked at that. You alleged that without proof. You came on my property without a warrant. You accused me of doing something you had no proof on and was expecting me to answer. Then a week later, this other woman comes down, which I showed the picture to a private investigator online. And he said, this doesn't make any sense. He said, this woman is not who she says she is, because he said her bicycle and her clothes do not match. And he did a whole profile on her. Therefore, I can assume that somebody from the township sent her to try to catch me in running a business. So she comes up and she says, my daughter has a horse and I really want to find a place for her to board that horse. What do you guys charge for horse boarding? This is private land, which you entered going past the no trespassing sign on your little wiki bicycle to try to wiki catch me doing something that I'm not doing, and probably sent from the morons in this township.
For sure.
And then they hide a tax bill. And I find out about it from junk mail coming from Kalamazoo. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, we don't owe any taxes here. I haven't had any notices, nothing like that. And then all of a sudden I find people coming out with a clipboard with their head on backwards, looking at my roof over there going, trying to figure out what they were going to have to put into it as they buy it in a foreclosure sale that the township was betting on that they'd be able to foreclose on my property. I am not kidding you. And so the harassment by Byron Township, who came on my property without a warrant, accusing me of being guilty of something they had no proof on, who sat there a couple of Mondays ago to give the deference to an investor out of this area with all the township residents that were there against it and giving them real good reasons. And I said, you need to have them post a $10 million bond because they're going to wreck our infrastructure, which you're going to have to come back on the residents and ask us to pay for their little pee in the pool party going on here. And I'm like, and there were residents that were concerned of drainage. There were residents that were concerned of how high the density was next to them. Not a thing. They passed it without addressing one thing. Don Tilma sat there, the township supervisor, and said, well, you know, development is the priority, not the residents. He admitted to violating his oath of office and actually had made a traitorous and treasonous statement. And then another guy that was there, Scott, I think it's Scott somebody or other, and not important. He's like, well, he started getting scared. He goes, well, we take orders from the state.
That's comforting.
He admitted this. This is how stupid these people are. And then he says, you know, we're just average citizens here. We don't know. And I said, well, what you don't know is, I said, I would be more scared of the people in the township suing you, your sorry butts, than some outside developer, because guess what? We're sick of it. And so right now I have several people in the, I completely broke the law crosshairs. And I think it's time to do a little fighting back with a little lawfare here to these imbeciles and then another thing came up last night that I think is fairly interesting. And I'm not sure that I'm going to put it out there, but you know how you wake up in the middle of the night and God starts talking to you, and all of a sudden the next thing you know, you've got answers to difficult questions and such. Cause I was like, you know, I'm just like sitting here ready to fight, you know, cause that's what I do. Like a honey bear,
Like a fighting rooster.
Yeah, yeah. Only not when
there's a fighting rooster on your property, Donna.
Yeah, it would be me. And so I'm sitting here going through things in my head. At about 3:00 in the morning, I actually cooked a bunch of pumpkins in the oven, and I did my dishes about 3:00 in the morning. Talked to a friend, and I'm like, oh, I got it. Guess what? You use their laws and their rules against them. And this is the beautiful thing, is that they are so stupid. They don't even know they're setting themselves up for a fall. And they handed it to me on another way by giving harassing me from the state in another direction. And guess what? We're going to use that little inconvenient law that they passed at the beginning of this year to actually find out who the hell is paying them off to do this. Someone's getting paid. There's no two ways about it. In our government, we've got so many people that are being paid off.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look at what's happening down on the border, I've got a bunch of whistleblowers that are telling me how the post offices are involved, and how it's not just the post offices, it's the people that are within the government. And I mean, look at what happened up in Goshen. My guess is right now is we've got China written all over the place in all of our townships where they're doing this stuff. And it's just a matter of time before you find out where the money flow is. And
what are they doing there?
Last night, middle of the night, God gives me the answer. I'm actually.
What are they doing in the Goshen?
Goshen.
What are
Goshen. It was the Chinese battery plant that Lori Brock is up there fighting. And all of those people that were sitting in the offices were selling their land at just exorbitant prices to those people that were putting Goshen in. They were literally selling their land to China, and the people up there in Green Township removed them all. And, you know, I got a feeling this is happening all over the place.
Oh, I think every city, every county. I was just talking about that this morning with Jeannie. Our little city here, Orchard Lake Village, is the only one that doesn't broadcast their meetings, their city meetings. I'm like, that's just strange. Why would they not broadcast it, you know, on the public?
Gotta hide it. Gotta hide the stuff.
Like, even this little town is corrupt.
They're so corrupt, it's not even funny. So I want to pose some questions to everybody out here. I'm going to tell you what to think. But I got my mind made up on a few issues. You know, a little common sense dictates what's actually going on out there. If you've got the cartels that are running the border down there and all the border cities, cartels are running the border cities. We have the cartels in every state in this union, every state. And let's just say, how many $1 trillion are they making as part of their drug deals? They're selling human trafficking deals, selling children, tied in with things like a live human organ transport company, which I was talking about earlier in the week, and CIS Aviation. They are being paid $10,000 a kid, allegedly, to bring them back to their countries. They never show up. They don't land there. And oh, surprise, surprise. This is a company that transports organs for live organ or for organ transplant. And the kids never the kids allegedly don't return home, which makes me wonder, are they like chopping them up in the sky on the way there? It's like, it's like organs on deliver or children on deliver, something like that. You got to ask that question. Somebody should be investigating it.
Where are they going?
So if let's just say the cartels are making trillions of dollars. They're making trillions of dollars. And what controls their access to be able to do what they're doing? Well,
our law enforcement, our government.
They've got to control the elections. They've got to control the government. So what happens if they go into the communities, and how much will it take for them to buy a politician? Not very much. Not very much. If they were gonna make, let's just say, I'm gonna throw a number out there. I don't know what it is. It's just for talking points. Let's just say they make $100 billion a year. How many $1 billion would it take to pay off the politicians and coerce the ones that can't be paid off to have access to everything?
Maybe 20% of that.
A lot less.
A lot less. And
less.
How much would it take for these big global corporations, which are tied in to the cartels and everything else? And I think it's Cartel du Sol, it's something like that, is the Venezuelan government. It is literally, if you have a cartel coming in here that is Venezuela, we can assume that this is an invading army right now, because that they own it. Okay, it is the government right there.
And I'd like to pose a possible thought here.
Okay.
And that's that, what if the cartels are actually a paper tiger and they are owned by the CIA? Because I tend to think that pretty much all of the drug trade in America is run, you go enough levels deep, I think just about all of it is run by our own CIA.
Well, the CIA, Mossad, and British intelligence, they're indistinguishable. So we have a global crime syndicate going through the intelligence organizations, and I know they're watching. So just go pound sand. We all know it, and we're going to get this out there because that's exactly what's happening. And so I just think they're all tied in. And you know what? I went and looked up an org chart for the United States government yesterday. We were talking about that. None exists. There is. Yep.
So I think this is why Trump has been talking about cartels in Venezuela. He's warning them, I'm going to take it all down. You are going to pay for this problem. And if you're a politician who is being A, coerced, or B, paid off, and you know that is coming to an end if Trump gets into office, that makes a difference for how you feel about the election and the future, doesn't it? Because you're going to be freed or you're going to go to jail, one or the other.
Well, President Trump isn't stupid like what they did with the Panama Canal, giving it right over to China after we built it. He's not stupid. And so when you've got the communist Maduro down there who just decided to, just like they found oil in the neighboring country that has 800,000 citizens there, and they just decided to take a vote to take it over in Venezuela, to take over the country next door, because they have new oil deposits found in the sea there. So you know what? I hate to say this. I think with the damage done, yeah, I bet we could run those oil fields down there just fine and help the people of Venezuela and pay off what we have in the United States.
Ralph, I have a question for you, and this kind of relates. What is Palantir? How does that work?
It is from the reports I've seen of it, it is a set of components that are used to combine data together. That what they do is they go into different large organizations and sell them on a solution to do data analysis, and then they custom build an analysis program out of all of these pre-built modules that they have for collecting data from different places, aggregating it together, and correlating it. That's kind of the core of the way that that it supposedly works. Now, where they get that information may or may not be above board, but that's their core business, is basically pulling that data together and trying to do analysis on it to pull data out that is not in the raw data sets. Like doing, they talk about metadata analysis. That's the kind of thing that Palantir, from the reports I've seen of it, is perfect for, is because the idea behind metadata analysis is, okay, let's look at who everyone's talking to. As an example, let's look at all of the phone calls without listening to the phone calls. Let's look at the source phone number and the destination phone number. Okay, well, just by that, you can figure out who is associated with who, and then you can do analysis on, okay, what are these people involved in? So what are these people probably involved in? And you can start piecing together a profile on all of the nodes in the graph.
So like that software basically just is a data cruncher, like the best in the world, where you can track associations between people and companies and incidents and all, like everything, their genetics, everything, and all these break-ins to computer systems. I wonder if, this is my theory, is that if the good guys, the Trump people, got that software and turned it against the bad guys, and for the last 8 or 9 years, we've been creating what you call those associations, so we know who's behind everything, behind all of the corruption and drug trafficking, human trafficking, and they needed to get this 8 years worth of data. And imagine in 2020, if Trump stayed in office, they probably would have all gone silent. But because he was out of office and Biden was there, they were still continuing with their criminal activities. And we use this stuff to map them all out. So like a giant sting operation.
It's entirely possible. And another kind of theory that I have on this is that whether this is an internal to Palantir thing or not, I cannot say one way or the other. I would say they probably would not risk doing this themselves, but I suspect that Palantir is used as an excuse for parallel construction, and or for trying to say that illicitly acquired data sets are in fact legitimate because or the data that we got from this is legitimate because Palantir says so, so we know it's accurate, and so we didn't have to actually use this data. We just figured it all out using this illicitly acquired data, and then figured out how to make Palantir say the same thing. Now, like I said, I don't think that they would do that within Palantir. I don't think they would risk their reputation on that, but I think a lot of the users of Palantir probably do that.
Like a lot of those companies, they just sell their software. They say, well, we don't know what they're going to do with it. It's up to them. Our hands are clean, but we sold it to Mossad and they're using it to track, everyone's cell phones.
Well, that's a big deal. When you go back to Five Eyes and how they used Five Eyes in other countries to spy on American citizens. Yeah. And that's grown right now. So absolutely they use other entities in order to do that. And then I don't know, it's all plausible deniability, right?
Yeah.
And that plausible deniability and the the fruit of the poison tree doctrine and all of that kind of stuff is, I think, one of the reasons why, like for the genetic information, I tend to think that the blood tests that people do that are not marketed as genetic information, there's a degree of safety that you have with that over going with something that explicitly says that it's for genetic information. Even if they use it for doing all that kind of stuff internally, there's kind of a degree of protection there because they can't come out and admit that they were doing all the genetic tests on all of the regular blood tests and medical tests. They can't admit that they were doing that without giving away a tool that they have in their arsenal. So the only way that they can actually use that information is if they can do parallel construction. That's the same theory I've got behind why there's any kind of protection whatsoever for anything on Tor. Tor, in my opinion, is kind of there's a degree of protection that you have in Tor from snooping from your own internet provider. But Tor was largely developed as a DoD project back in the day. That was one of the things that early on, it was very well known that it was a DoD project, and their stated goal was to be able to circumvent the censorship in China. So Tor is almost certainly compromised. But the problem is that they can't come out and actually use that information about who is browsing stuff on Tor or who's accessing what on Tor. Even if they know that, they can't come out and say that they know that without giving away a massive asset that they have. So there's this weird degree of, well, I know you know that I know, but I can't tell you that because, there's multiple levels there. So to a certain extent, there's a little bit of weird protection in that fact,
It kind of reminds me of those. I saw this article on this company. This was a number of years ago that came up with this unhackable cell phone, and it was the CIA or FBI that did it, and they sold these things worldwide to drug cartels and criminals and stuff. I mean, it was a huge company. They actually made tons of profit. And they had resellers all over the world, and they caught everybody because they were listening to everything. And Tor could be something similar that was set up by the FBI as a secure way of communicating. But I don't think anything is truly secure anymore.
It absolutely is not. And so
even supply chains. I mean, there's well-known documented instances of various government agencies within our own government hijacking shipments from suppliers. Like one that I know of, they targeted Cisco for a while, where they would take Cisco deliveries where people had ordered from a supplier. They'd ordered a piece of equipment, and the government agency took that into a lab, reprogrammed some of the firmware or soldered in parts onto the boards, and then sealed it up using like replicas of the seal tape or seal stickers or whatever, or just completely replicating the packaging and then sending it back out to the end customer so that they could compromise that piece of equipment. There's a lot of that. But then on the other hand, just like with the cell phones, once that comes out there, they can use it in court once. After that, everybody else knows that's compromised and they can't use it again. So there's a lot of these systems that are set up that are like, yeah, I know it's compromised, but you're not going to admit that it's compromised because I'm not the biggest fish, and you're not going to break up that entire thing that you've spent decades building to go after me looking at cat pictures,
I just brought this up right now to show the relationship between Palantir and all of their entities that they're attached to. This is by Jonathan Cagle. He's a friend of mine, and he is just my unbelievably favorite researcher. I never thought I'd find anybody that was even close to him. Vicki Davis has become quite close to him. This guy has done so much work. He holds so much information in his head. I just got to say that we've got two twin researchers there, and their abilities. It's just amazing. But Jonathan he's just like one of my favorite people in the whole world. I love him, and he tracks down all of these people and how they're connected to each other. And this takes us all back to Palantir and the stock prices and that sort of thing. But it's all connected. All of this is so connected that you really got to keep that in mind when you're watching. Anyhow, there's Jonathan. Decent backup there you go. So a good thing to watch his stuff. He's really good, but he does a lot on Palantir and the corporations, where Vicky does treaties and such, and the technocratic type thing, how we got here through technology and systems commandeering. He does it in a way that is he goes after corporations, so we can see the corporate structure and who all is involved in this. It's so big that I think it's really difficult for most people to even get their arms around how many things are compromised. Unbelievable. And you know what? They took advantage of the human failing for, first of all, curiosity, and second of all, laziness, to take the easy way out and take the money. That's really how they got to people, is personal lack of integrity. And then all of a sudden their organization grew, and it continues to grow. Not just Palantir, but the whole entirety of the corporate structure, and they're all tied in.
And like you said, that's pretty much all. You have to assume that every piece of technology, every security system, you have to assume that it's compromised, because it almost certainly is. And if it isn't currently, it will be. You know, there is no such thing as a perfectly secure anything, either physical security or digital security. There's, you start getting into an asymmetrical threat model where it's you protecting yourself, and you've got, potentially you have to think of it as infinite adversaries that have infinite time to just try stuff against any of your defenses. And sooner or later, that infinite people with infinite time will eventually find a weakness in your security. But can you make your security such that it's still effective regardless, and that it doesn't matter, or that your security is good enough that it's not worth the time and effort? And that's really about all that you can do, or that you just frankly don't care,
Yeah.
There's only so much you can really do to. It's nothing to worry about. It's a known thing. This has been, the battle between securing things and breaking the security on things is as old as time. It's nothing new at all. You have locks on doors, and people figure out how to pick them, and then somebody comes up with a better lock, and somebody figures out how to pick it, and then somebody breaks in through a window, and then you've got this constant battle. Even with encryption, I mean, you look at the history of ciphers and codes. It goes back, depending on your definitions of them, it goes back centuries and possibly millennia. And there's always somebody trying to break that on the other side, be it another country or someone within your own country, just trying to do it for nefarious or even good purposes.
Well, and I think that comes back to having our faith in God and realizing that there's just no guarantees here. The only guarantee we have is God himself and what he's willing to do to protect us. And you can't walk through life afraid all the time and be looking for the boogeyman behind every door, right? If there's things that go wrong, first of all, God affords a lot of protection over us, and our lives, our steps are already, he's already got our life laid out for us. And it talks about that in the Bible, right? We have choices to make. We're learning along the way. And I get that, but you got to realize that he's here to help us and catch us when we fall and set us back on our feet and go forward. So you can go forward into life without being afraid of them. When it comes to the jab, they've been able to poison us for a long time. I was reading something the other day on the hepatitis B vaccine and how absolutely toxic that was. So this whole COVID thing is nothing new. People were trying to tell us about this decades and decades ago on how bad this stuff was. And it wasn't until really recently that we really got it figured out how bad things really were and how compromised our elected officials are. So walk forward. You're going to find more problems. Every day is going to have enough problems in itself. Don't worry about what's coming, because I can assure you that you're going to have problems every day. You're going to have good things every day, but you're also going to have problems. Go ahead and get annoyed and mad at it. That's a natural reaction. You should be, unless you're numb. It should bother you a little bit, but then use that to find the strength and the answers on how to fight back and never stop. We're in a battle of good versus evil, and we can never stop fighting that.
Well, and even more than that, I mean, you can derive enjoyment from the fight. I mean, I look at securing things. I actually look a lot of times I'll look at it as a game. If I'm securing a server, it'll be, it's a game of me versus the hackers. And I've done stuff like actually intentionally lowered security or even taken in a virus consciously onto a computer just to see what it would do, see what my adversary is doing, so I can analyze it so that I know how to better protect the servers or the people that I need to be able to protect. And I've had times before where a hacker has gotten through one layer of defenses only to be stopped by another or something like that. And I'll just look at it and smile. And it's like, I got to hand it to you. You did a good job there, and I can respect that. And it becomes a game at that point. What can you do to it's a little like playing chess. And that's a bad analogy because I suck at chess. But it's like playing any kind of game at that point where it's you versus an opponent. And yeah, you may win some battles, they may win some battles, but what can you do to learn from that, move forward, and better protect yourself next time?
Good advice. And it's good to keep our brains going in that direction and the positivity part of it.
It can be really fun if you start thinking about it that way.
Well, even the people in government, I think that one of the greatest things, I was talking to Darleaf this week, he called me and we're friends. And I said to him too, I said, I won by losing. And he understood it right off the bat. He said, yeah, you've had a lot of time to educate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I'm like, yeah. And so even when we get more time, but you come up against a problem and you have that time to really evaluate it and come up with creative solutions on how to deal with it. And the next time it comes around, you're going to be loaded for bear, which is amazing.
The other thing too is
process.
When you start seeing it as a game and you start realizing, I'm against an opponent and I can start using some interesting tactics to see what they're doing and use their attempts to do stuff against them. Well, you start getting into, I am a huge proponent of, whenever possible, use an enemy's infrastructure against them.
Yep.
Trump is a master at all this.
They built it for you. They invested it in that. They invested their time, their effort, whatever. They invested it in that. Use that to your advantage.
Like TikTok. I just decided that I was going to go on TikTok, and somebody that was a smart aleck came on my Telegram channel and said, "Oh, what do you think? You're getting in with China. China owns them." And I'm like, yeah, and China owns most of the ground that your food is coming off of. Yeah. And if you go into big box stores, you're buying into China, and the component parts to vehicles come from China. So what's the point here?
You think China's not on Telegram?
Yeah, right. It's like, and probably
Telegram, if I remember right, is primarily run out of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it's Saudi Arabia, but the point being is that the countries that exist right now, I don't believe that the borders actually exist globally anywhere. It's all a sham. China's there, China's here, China's everywhere. And it's like, did you ever hear that song from Cappy, Isaac Cappy? He was big in the Anon community as far as Anons just loved him. And so, you'd see his videos and such. And he did one that was the Epstein Island edition of Brackets and Jackets, and naming all of them as they're all Epstein Island. Did you guys ever see that?
Oh yeah.
I love it. I could bring one up. I don't think Ralph has seen this. I don't know about you, Karen, but I'm pretty sure Ralph hasn't seen this.
I don't think I've seen it.
I like those beats.
Hello.
Probably took them all off the internet.
No, actually, I found one the other day. So, Brackets and Jackets, Epstein Island edition. Oh, did you see there was a video out here on I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say the naughty letter, the 17 letter. Did you see that we have, I got to bring this up. I'm going to wait on the Brackets and Jackets because this is important. Did you see that, let's see, where did I put it? I think I put it in my Telegram channel.
I think I know where you're going. It was on Telegram.
Yeah. Check this out. This is awesome.
What's up, guys? Just
hang on.
real quick video here.
All right. A non-friend. And let me put this up here because I religiously watch the Q posts because I was in a research group. And not only that, we researched everything. And there are so many Q posts that you can't look at that without saying that there's some validity there. That's what got me kicked off of Twitter the first time, right? But there's so many Q proofs out there that you have to look at this and not just say, oh, somebody told me this is evil, blah, 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 blah. You know what Q did? Q made everybody think and start researching, and they and gave us little breadcrumbs to go after. And that it was a great time. It was a great time because you got together with friends and you're like, what does this mean? What can this possibly mean? Not listening to QAnon, which doesn't exist. Okay. There were Q posts and you look at them because they made you ask questions, but you don't listen to the people that are interpreting them. You should be going back there, asking your own questions and getting your own answers. Q posts were phenomenal. Okay. And to get you to thinking and going, wow, I never thought of that. And then you start looking into, well, what does this really mean? But I didn't listen to the people that were talking about it too much, except for I like the guy at Space Shot 76 at Mike. He was pretty cool when this first started out. But anyhow.
I was looking at Q drops and I just found something that is blowing my mind. So I have to make a video about it. So I'm here on qalerts.app. And I noticed that there's a 7-year, right? You're hitting the 7-year deltas now. 3 days, 11 hours. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, that would be cool if it hit a 7-year delta for the election. Like if the first post was on November 5th. And then I started looking, I'm like, well, am I close to 7 years, 7 days? That would be cool. So I came here and found something absolutely incredible. If you put in the date and the time, right? You got the date and time right here. And add 7 years, 7 days, and 7 hours. And then you round these up. 15, 32. You get November 5th, 2024. Probably the most important day of our freaking lifetime is a 777 delta to the first Q post. And you're saying, oh, what about that 15 minutes, Brad? Well, that means for the first 45 minutes of November 5th, we will have a 7-year, 7-day, and 7-hour delta to start election day. Holy shit. It is so freaking on and so happening. And what does 777 mean? When the number 7 is repeated 3 times as number 777, it means the perfection of the Trinity. The The biblical meaning of 777 encompasses both the threefold expression of the perfectly holy God and the full completion symbolized by the number 7. So 777 signifies God's working to completely fulfill good purposes and doing that work with absolute perfection. And 777 is known in general as the God version of 666. So again, for the first 45 minutes of November 5th, we will have a 7-year, 7-day, 7-hour delta. Wow.
Wow, crazy.
Isn't that cool? And yeah, just so everybody knows, look up post on the QAlert app. You can look up post 3257, and you will find that post refers to yours truly. And 3257 adds up to 17.
Oh my goodness.
Hat tip to Q. I know you're watching. So at any rate, yeah, you want to see it? It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'll throw it out there. It's kind of cool. Okay, hang on.
Click, click.
We're almost there, people.
What's gonna happen, Donna? What's gonna happen on election day?
Yeah, I get asked that all the time, and I'm like, what difference does it make? So done with that nonsense. It's like you should be doing what you're doing right now. So here it is. Q alert, March 28, 2029 at 2:29 and 10 seconds in the afternoon. And I had a post in there, and Q answered back, "We love you." And that's Truth Seeker D. That was who I was writing.
Who did you post that it responded to you?
Yeah, I posted a picture, and they responded, or Q responded, "We love you." Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the picture?
It was a picture of a bunch of us that were we were at the Donald Trump rally, and a bunch of my new friends there were wearing Q shirts. Took a picture, posted it, and that was kind of a cool thing. So actually, I was so excited about it. I've got a funny story to tell about the whole thing, actually, which is really cool. So they were taking all the Q stuff away, and we have a suite in the Van Andel Arena, which is where it was. And so we went up to the suite, and they were taking all the Q stuff away, and I was like, screw you people, I'm going to get a Q up there in some way or another. So to make sure that President Trump saw it. And so I had some paper up in the suite, and we were harassing the guy the announcer for the Griffins. We harassed him constantly because and we made this big sign that says, "We heart Ruben," because Ruben was the announcer's dad, because we loved his dad. So I folded the paper over with Ruben, and I made a great big Q with markers I had up there. It's funnier than heck. So we had a "We heart Q," and it's big sign, right? Big sign. It's big enough. I can't remember how wide it was, but it was wide enough for anybody in the arena to see it, right? So we go out there, and we're out there on the balcony, and we're waiting. And it's like, I'm gonna get you somebody here, because you don't take our Q stuff away. This stuff is important to us, right? We're living for this stuff right now. So we get out on the balcony, and President Trump walks out, and we go, "Yay!" Hold the sign up. We're like, "Hey!" Like this. I look down the bleachers, or the seats down below our suite, and there's a Secret Service guy down there, and all of a sudden he looks up at us, and he's like this. He does a double take, like, "Oh no." And he doesn't know what to do, right? I hope the guy's watching someday, and I love him because it was hilarious. So he goes, and all of a sudden I can see him like talking into a microphone, sort of communication, like, "Oh crap, what did they do?" Right? And I'm like, "We're putting Q up." And so anyhow, we did that. And they left it up. They left it up for quite a while, in fact. And so President Trump comes out, he's waving and such, and your service guy comes up and says, all right, hand it over. And I'm like, no, let me keep it, please. And I'm like, it's just a letter. He's like, yeah, you and I both know that's not true. I'm like, please let me keep it. And he's like, hand it over. So we handed it over. So the next day, we get up the next day, and lo and behold, on every news source, there's a picture of President Trump. Let's see, it's on this side. He's going like this, he's looking all presidential and such like this. And right here between his head and his hand is our sign. They got a picture of it. And so when we built our billboards, because I bought a 52-inch vinyl printer to support President Trump, we went ahead and that was the picture that we had on the billboard. That was Trump 2020, was that picture that they took with us in the background. But unless you know the story, you would know that happened. But it was a huge day, and such a nice thing. I sure hope that I would love to see Q Post again. I would love to see a Q Post come out, and I think it would be totally and completely amazing. Would make all of our days, all of us that tirelessly, darn near 24/7, we're digging through the Q posts in order to find out what we were supposed to be looking for, not listening to people interpret them, but learning to research, learning to ask questions, learning to find out what the structure really was. It was amazing. Totally, completely amazing. So,
wow. That's a great story.
Yeah, Truth Seeker D loves you too, Q.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Kind of a fun thing, isn't it?
Very cool.
Yeah. So
can't wait to find out what it all is and what it all means.
I outed myself. So and people that have never read the Q post but only listened to the people commenting on it, they're like, oh, nobody knows anything about Q. It's like, you didn't read the Q post. Q post that said that there's 10 people in that were part of the Q group that were putting posts out, and that 3 of them were non-military. Well, you can make up your mind pretty darn quickly on who was in on this.
I thought 3 were military and the rest civilian.
What's that?
3 were military and the rest civilian?
3 civilian, the rest military.
Okay.
And so you can assume with Q plus that was probably President Trump, but I'm not telling anybody to look or to believe me. Go read the posts.
Yeah.
So there you go. Here, I'll even put a link on this on my Telegram channel, and you can actually see this. And so there you go, from Truth Seeker D, with love to all of you. I have other names I wrote under too, but that's one of them. Ta-da!
That's great.
Fun story, isn't it?
I was able to find the reference tweet in the Internet Archive.
Oh, which one was it? Is the last one there?
The first one.
First one. Okay, this was good. I've got it archived somewhere, but it's going to take me a little while to find it. So I appreciate your technical expertise, Ralph, the amazing Ralph. This really makes me smile. All my friends out there will be watching this, and this is what a great time that was. That was a really great time.
How quickly
we're in a great time right now too, by the way.
What's that?
Not that I'm comparing or anything, but I think we're in a great time right now. And I'm sitting back entertained, wondering what's going to happen next. That's my game, Ralph. I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And I'm not that good at chess either. I don't even know how to play chess. I've looked at the rules before. I'm like, that's too complicated. I'm not getting into it. But I like to ask questions and think about different theories and then watch and wait and see what happens. I'm okay with that. And I that's what I try to get other people to see, instead of being afraid all the time. And, well, if you don't vote, then the country's going to come to an end. No. Let's say Harris wins the election and gets inaugurated. And what do you think is going to happen? Do you think the people of the United States are going to be okay with that? Do you think that they're going to make you wear a mask or take a shot or anything worse? Do you think you're just going to sit on your butt and allow that to happen? 4 years ago, you would have been very concerned about that. And did it happen? A lot of people said no, and they're still around, aren't they? I'm not that worried that something terrible is going to happen if Trump doesn't win the election. That's so like narrow-minded. You got to think a lot bigger and look at the progression of what's been happening all along. Has it been positive or negative? It's been very positive. Things are moving in a very positive direction. We're going to be okay.
Okay, I had to bring this one up here because you notice this little sign right there? Notice that? Let's see if I can get it to increase. Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
There we
You
are.
should be able to go Control Plus.
Control plus. Okay. Right there. Right next to the president, the greatest president in the history of the United States, who will be president again. There's the greatest president in the history of the United States. And there, my friends, there is my sign.
Wow.
When did you respond after you posted it? How long?
What's that?
After
Oh,
you
it was quick. I posted it and it was like it was quick. It was probably within 10 minutes.
Wow.
So they were definitely watching. Everybody's being watched all the time. And you know what? I love them for it. I think it's great. So that was on my billboard in 2016. Trump 2020 right there. That was on their billboard. And so we got ourselves in the billboard. Isn't that fun?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. You can see, if you ever wanted to see somebody absolutely lose their shit, that was me that day. I was like, oh my God, I'm like dancing around. It was the coolest thing in the whole wide world. I'm like, what a cool thing this is. I don't know. I think I was actually more excited about the Q post than seeing President Trump. If you really want to know the truth,
For sure.
That's sort of like catching a unicorn,
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, being in the Q post. Yep, you just caught a unicorn right there.
Yeah. Dang. President Trump is going to be in Warren today, I think, Michigan.
Yeah, I'm supposed to go over to the other side of the state today, but I don't think I'm going to make it there for that because I'm on here with you lovely people showing up and faithful. But we're going to put them out there. Guess what? So we've got the rightful president of the United States standing with Donna Brandenburg right there with her We Heart Q sign right there. The rightful president of the United States who will be president again because we're going to be all smart. We're going to vote for him on the 5th of November to make sure that he is able to have his rightful seat, which the criminals in office, and that includes every one of them because none of them stood up for him. And really, the ones in the legislature and such, they needed to stand up and get serious here and go all 1776 on these usurpers, but they didn't. They let them be fed to the lions. And you know what? The main thing is we're all standing here with them. We've not wavered. We've not wavered in our support of him. We love him. We loved what he did for this country. We love, honestly, I'm going to say it. I love Q. I love everything that Q did for us because the ones that are saying that it was a bad thing, they probably never read even one post. They listened to the grifters that were out there trying to make money off of it, not the people that were trying to save the nation. And they did a wonderful service to this nation, just tremendous. Woke up a whole generation or two of people, got us to think, got us to research. It was Q that got all the researching and all the stuff going in that direction. Never make no mistake about that. And, we need to be thankful for those things instead of being, spoiled, divisive little snots out there, telling everybody what to think and what's wrong. Get out there and do your own research.
One, too, kind of in the same vein of we're talking about looking at these kind of conflicts as a game. For anybody that's thinking, oh, my vote doesn't matter because they're cheating. Well, once again, this is, a lot of things right now in politics feel like they're pointless to even try because of how beat down people are, right? But the thing about it is that if everybody made an effort, even if they thought that it was futile, if everybody made just a small effort, you know how much that would raise the bar for how much effort they would have to do to overcome that? Every person that votes one way means that somebody cheating the other way has to expend resources to be able to cheat. And they have to figure out some way of hiding that. That is now an even bigger obstacle for them to try and overcome, to do it while hiding it. So everything that you can do like that, even if it looks like it's futile, if everyone did something that they thought was futile, it would not at all be futile. And even if you think it's futile, it probably isn't, because you're also expending enemy resources to overcome your small little difference. And especially if you can make your small difference, not just in voting, but in anything else. If you can magnify your efforts where your small difference means that your adversary has to expend more resources than you do to overcome your small little difference, even if it's just by 10%, look at how casinos win. Casinos operate on a very small margin on a lot of the odds. But as long as they can keep that margin consistent, then they still win, right? So if you can, in all of your efforts, try and find things to do that your small difference means that your adversary has to spend 10% more resources than you did, that's a massive win.
That is, and it goes to the point that we all have to work at this together and not try to think that we got to solve the whole problem. We just got to solve part of it in whatever God puts in front of us. And then that's how we win. We win like, let's look at this like let's look at this like a pack of wolves. A pack of wolves can't bring a large animal down by one wolf, but a pack might be able to bring it down. And that's how we got to start thinking. That's how they came after us as predators. We got to turn it around on them. Okay.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
That's it.
Works.
It works.
And like you said, we got to turn that around.
All right, guys. Well, I've got a couple other people that are coming in here because we're going to talk about this election cheating. Because did you see what these guys did? They've got like 20. They've got one voter record with 29 different addresses. That means that our moronic Secretary of State, the complete failure and loser Jocelyn Benson, who is completely incompetent and or ready to, that was consistently trying to take down this nation with her little Mossad asset friends that she's got out there and whatever. It's like, I don't have anything against Jewish people, but I'm going to tell you what, I've got everything against the institutions that run this nation, whether it's Israel, the United States, China, Venezuela, all of them are in bed together. You in bed with those people, those globalist people, you're a piece of trash. And it's like, when they're taking down this nation, you're a traitor, you're a piece of trash. How do you have a system that allows 29 addresses to kick out ballots for one voter ID? Answer that question. Benson, answer that question, you failure. And let's see what she has to say. What say you? Nothing. Because why? Because you've got nothing to say. Because you're all in bed with this and stealing our elections. So anyhow, I'm going to bring these guys on in a minute. I'm going to say bye-bye to you because I'm sure you guys have to go. It's like I know that Ralph does. David, do you have the ability to stay around?
I can stay around.
Okay, Karen, what say you?
I can stay around a little bit.
Okay, I'm gonna let Ralph go because I know he's busier than a one-armed paper hanger. So we're gonna let you go here a minute, Ralph, and I will be right back with our election integrity. No backing down, savagery that's going on coming up to the election as we defend the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, the citizen who had his rights violated. I'll be right back. morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and I'm here with my buddies. Well, we got Karen back and Dr. David and Christina and Chris and Jason. And how are you guys?
Great.
Good. How are you, Donna?
Good. We're having election savagery here to get, to defend the rights of President Trump, the rightful president of the United States, and Q in your face to anybody that wants to call us all Q-tards. Go right ahead and call us names. Guess what? We were just ahead of the curve. So Jason has a lot to say. I want to let him talk today a little bit because he is right in the belly of the beast, figuring out what happened in our elections. And there's just more stuff that's been coming out, isn't there, Jason?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. We've got, a magnifying glass on every aspect of the election in across the country. There's great patriots digging into the voter rolls. They're monitoring the drop boxes. They're watching everything. We have eagle eyes across the country on this entire process. And it's absolutely phenomenal to hear and see and be on the inside of all of that and to just see the ability to react. The time, in 2020, we didn't have this. We didn't have the consensus that we have now. We had all these guardrails and masks, and it was so difficult to observe the process. They had all these excuses, and nobody was really very well prepared. And yeah, we ended up getting to the bottom of a lot of what was going on in 2020. But what we have now established is a very robust network of people who are well informed, well connected, and very capable. And what I'd like to bring up about Michigan in particular is that this case of the Chinese student who voted in Ann Arbor. Now, for weeks and weeks, the mainstream media has been talking about how it's impossible for foreign people to vote in our elections. It doesn't happen. There's no examples. It doesn't happen. Prove it, right? And then so, of course, you have the Virginia governor going and saying, hey, we've got 6,000 non-citizens on our voter rolls. We want to take them off. And then all of a sudden they file a lawsuit to stop them from taking them off the voter rolls. And it's like, all right, so you admit they're on the voter rolls. How the heck do they even get there if they're not citizens? This is like saying, yeah, we want Xi Jinping and we want Vladimir Putin to vote in our elections. Come on, guys. This is common sense stuff. If you're not a citizen, then you shouldn't be voting in our nation's elections. They would expect the same thing, vice versa, right? And so now we're at that critical moment in the information warfare battle space, right? Where we've pushed so hard and we've exposed so much that they no longer can deny. So this is the steps, right? Lie, deny, and then counter accuse. And that's the phases, right? So they start off, they just straight lie to your face. Then once you have enough proof and evidence, they just deny it. And once it's gotten to the point where nobody believes their denials, they counter accuse. They accuse you of doing exactly what they're doing, right? And that's breaking through the phases of cognitive dissonance. When someone has bought into or believed in something, and then that is challenged, their worldview, their perception is challenged, they protect it. They try to protect that worldview. And then when they can no longer protect it, when it becomes so apparent that they're wrong, then they have to accept it, right? So where we're at right now is in the acceptance phase. We've broken through all this cognitive dissonance, and an article was just wrote by the The Economist posted on X, and it says that Kamala Harris is the machine's candidate, straight up, and she's the phrasing is just we got to get this in a frame and around a golden border, because They admit she's an unimpressive candidate, but she's our candidate. And if we don't have her, then the world is going to descend into chaos. That's what they said. So for global stability, you have to vote for Kamala Harris. That's what they said. This is The Economist, mind you, and they're owning it. They're saying, look, yeah, we're a machine. Yeah, we control the system. Blatantly, right in your face. This is the headline. Like, but if we're not in control, there's going to be global chaos. Well, hello, what's been going on the last 4 years? We have 27 diplomatic missions across the world, the globe, that have closed as a result of the utter chaos that is occurring everywhere. As foreign countries have had coup d'etats, have had communist overthrows, and there are people fleeing like crazy. There's a reason why the southern border, why they're able to get all these people to come here. And part of it is because the other countries around the world are falling apart. They're going into war. The conflict with Ukraine, Israel, multiple times over, Iran, Iraq. And we're not even getting into the conflicts along the Chinese borders. Everything is highly contentious over the last 4 years. And it's because we had this period of tremendous peace under Trump, where no new wars were created. The fire-breathing dragon warmongers had lost power and were getting their butts whipped. And so they had to retaliate. They retaliated by taking the government from Trump in 2020. And now they're trying to say, for global stability, which we know is a farce, because what are they going to do? The first thing they want to do is invade. They want to hit Moscow. They want to take over Russia. Who does that even benefit? What does a conflict in Europe really benefit us? It doesn't, except for a graveyard for fifth generation warfare equipment, fourth and fifth generation warfare equipment, and getting rid of all of the old Russian equipment that's still sitting in many of the new NATO member countries, and even some of the former or previous NATO member countries that still had Russian equipment. It's a graveyard. So we can, sell all of our equipment to the NATO members. This is just a money grab, and this is all about the Atlantic Council and NATO. Sorry, I just went on a huge tangent.
Really, no, I mean, that's what I wanted to hear because we, I've been lurking around on all of your tweets on X because you've got a really educated and wonderful perspective on things. So I'm like, okay, what did Jason say today? What's going on here? It is just it's mind-boggling how integrated all of these people in these systems are in their domination of the entire world. That's really what they want, and enrich the military-industrial complex. It's crazy.
Yeah, but the military-industrial complex is just one component of the global world order, right? Mm-hmm. So once we established the United Nations, and that was the follow-on from the League of Nations, but we have, as Joe Biden stated, the new liberal world order. This is essentially Soros, Larry Fink, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab type. This is this very elitist, eugenicist cult that has basically taken over the previous world order. And these are the depopulation people. These are the people who want to use carbon, which we're carbon-based life forms. They want to use that as a tax. So if you want to exist as a human being on this planet, you got to pay your overlords a tax to exist. That's what this is about. This is about a new form of debt slavery. Okay. The current old order debt bondage at least had the opportunity of the appearance of liberty and freedoms, right? This new dystopian emerging world order has none of that. All of the flavors of this new world order is full on Orwellian dystopia.
You brought up a name too, Larry Fink. He's a Michigan boy, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Yeah. Ties it right back to Michigan State and U of M. They're indoctrination camps. And guess who else is involved in that? Ron Weiser, that was the ex chair of the Michigan Republican Party, who was tied
and on the Atlantic Council.
He was tied in the Atlantic Council and Burisma, and he actually made a donation to Biden. You know, it's like these labels between these parties are absolute shams. That's how they hide themselves, because they put their little cockroachy selves in each other's party to lead people astray. And and most people won't look behind them to see who's feeding them and where the ties are, you know. And when you see like $150 million going from Weiser into the U of M, and then see all the connections to development, the developers, look at the developers, because the developers are all about taking our land, and they move tons of money. I don't see any difference between some of these developers, or most of them, and selling the land to China. They're all foreign financed, and then they launder their money in different ways. Just a big deal. I got to tell you, I had somebody that just said that David put a post in the chat. My brother Virgil lives in Houston, Texas area, and he claims the cartel bought a huge X miles by X miles plot of land north of him, and the Texas government knows about it but won't take action.
No, they won't. The government is in bed with the cartels. There's a reason why you won't see any action against the cartels. Biden and the Biden family owns 10% of a company called ePlata. ePlata is a digital bank. It may have some physical elements to it, but it's one of the largest purveyors of remittances for the foreign invasion that there is. So $160 billion in remittances. This is money that US dollars that foreign nationals have inside the United States, and they send back home. That money is a remittance. That money there's a processing fee by ePlata. And that money, 10% of the company is owned by various shell companies. It's not all owned by one. The Biden family owns companies that have various positions in ePlata, but altogether they have roughly 10%. And if you think about it, $160 billion, even if you say I just did some rough math and worked it back down, and that's like $400 million a year, almost $500 million that the Bidens are potentially making off of just the open border, and the remittances. Now, this doesn't include any of the other nefarious aspects like the drug trafficking and human trafficking and the rest of it. I mean, this is a part of the component of the human trafficking, right? This is where they profit off of the human trafficking, because that money that goes back, probably going back to pay off the cartel to leave their family members alone until they get fully paid off. And from what I understand is that they never truly become fully paid off for paying for their travel and for the cartel to facilitate their travel. And so they basically hold them hostage. And if you think about this, it's a horrible condition for these people who are here that are illegal, that just want, many of them, not all, we're looking for a new home, and we're looking for a better life. They came here expecting that, and then to have their family members held hostage back home in order to feed money outside of the country. And I want to bring up a really critical component here, and that is the banking aspect. The United States has roughly $3 trillion in currency, U.S. currency, that's actually in existence, that's actually been printed and is technically in circulation. Most of it is on pallets in a warehouse in New York, and it never leaves there. But $3 trillion is the actual hard currency. So when we did these massive COVID bailouts, they didn't print 5 trillion new US dollars. What they did was they borrowed money from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is private banks. Now they have buckets. The private banks have buckets of all sorts of different currencies that they have. And when they lend the United States dollars, the Treasury then gets to go ahead and say, okay, we've got a loan through these bonds to go now and pay some bills or go do some things. We haven't actually printed that money. The reason why we're never, ever going to get out of debt is because we're paying interest on money we don't even have. It doesn't exist in circulation. It's impossible to pay back debts that don't even truly exist. So we're signing agreements for money that's not in existence, that's impossible to pay back at a rate that, unless we do actually start printing this money and start paying it with new currency, there is no way except to collapse the economy, which then lends itself to the collapse of our banks, the Federal Reserve. And that's really where we're heading.
And we have about a 100% chance of that happening. And what I see, and everybody that I know, I think we're going to see a complete collapse.
Think about this. If there's 30 million immigrants in the United States, and each one of them each month takes out $1,000. Mind you, this is what has been told is what the UN is sending them in aid on preloaded cards, right? They get a total of $6,000 is what's being reported. So for each month, if they go and take $1,000 for these prepaid cards out of the bank, they go to the bank, say, I want to take $1,000 out. $60 billion. They could shut banks down left, right, and center. You want to know what a run on a bank looks like? If these guys are planning to execute this plan, look, they don't need foreign military invasion. They have a surrogate force of people here who can make a run on our banks, cause complete and utter chaos and calamity, and you won't be able to pay your bills. You won't. Your bank's not going to have any money in it, and it's going to cause a lot of chaos and disorder. There's multiple ways with what has transpired over the last 4 years to take down the United States, and it looks like on every cylinder they're moving forward on these different avenues, and that's kind of terrifying in a lot of respects. But if you think about what we have and what we can do going forward, some of the stuff is almost necessary to happen in order to fix the broken system.
Well, it's kind of like, I think where we are right now, it's like when you remodel a house, you've got a house that's in shambles. You don't just go in there and try to build over what's there. You tear it down to the studs, and you look at the wiring, you look at the insulation, you look at the bones of it, you repair the structure if you need to, and then you start building out from that. And I really think the United States needs to tear it right down to the studs and rebuild this. When we rebuild it, it has to be built on a good foundation. We have to have all the rot, the mold, the cancer that's invaded our nation. It all has to be torn out, and we gotta do it right this next time. And I really believe that that's where we're going with this. I really do. And so, when we look at all of this, that the bad guys were meaning for bad, God means things. He takes the things that they mean for bad and he turns it into good. So we can go forward going, okay, Papa, what you doing now? What's coming next?
I like that, and I'd like to say that I think you have to take the studs out too, because that's the education. That's what warped this nation into a Nazi-like ideology. You have to get rid of the ideology. This education, this movement of what's going on also, it comes from the system. It comes from that. So, and it's in our schools, it's in our universities. You have to literally take all the studs down. You have to pull all the wiring out, and you have to be left with the slab of stone that God intended. And then you have to rebuild on that. This nation is so, I guess, under a control of of this evil that you can, you all of you are picking out like the dominoes of effects of one bad act to another. It's almost like this machine is well oiled. And getting back to Ron Weiser, for example, the one of the members of the Atlantic Forum Council. Okay, so this evil, this domino effect, slants downward. You go to the vice chair. Look what she did. She arranged all the bus rides for the
J6.
For the J6, for the participation of J6. She was part of it. She loaded those buses with Antifa groups and shit like that to ship down to there. You and I, Donna, witnessed a Republican what do you call it, office or what have you, where the Republicans go to meet and talk to the people about what they've done, bills they've passed, things that our congressmen are doing. And right next, I mean connected to that building, is a big BLM office, right?
Yeah, they shared a wall. We couldn't believe it.
Yep.
BLM and the Republican Party in that area shared a wall in a strip mall.
And never said a word about it.
Never said a word. And it was in South Michigan. It was in South West Michigan. And we couldn't believe it. We're like, you got to be kidding me. So the Republican Party is like, wall mates in a strip mall.
Yeah, it's so much bigger than Donald Trump and Joe Biden. As you are connecting all the dots, I love this guy because that's talking about all the economical issues, because that's exactly what it is. This dates back to the Babylonian days. This is how they ran their system. And this system is just so full of cancer in every single aspect that we live, that it's going to take God to work this out. And unless we don't educate our people on what's going on, I'm wondering, it's you better get close to God. That's all I got to say.
Miss Donna, do I have an echo?
No, you're good.
You're good. Awesome.
I'm good at talking.
Sorry, guys. My service is going in and out. I think that a lot of people are becoming more and more aware of just how integrated the corruption is in the system. And, I always say everything happens for a reason. There's a reason that Joe Biden got into office. We had to see this. The people have to wake up for the next process to even begin. But when we're specifically talking about the election, the things that you're seeing now is propaganda. The ballot boxes, the gentlemen getting into the fights, they're closing them down early. All of that is propaganda. And if you're swept up by that, then you're not focused on what you need to be focused on, because the information is there. The information of them cheating, how they cheated last time, where they're going to try to cheat now. We just have to find that data. And some people are better than others at doing that. But the United States as a whole needs to wake the fuck up. People are walking around programs. And I believe 100% that this country will crash and burn. And that's the best thing for it. When you exist in this corruption like this, it doesn't, there's no path for it. So it's always going to explode in their face. And you got Kamala Harris, now they're saying they're broke. She's broke. I bet she ain't broke. She's got record freaking donations. That money's being currently washed in Ukraine right now with the rest of our fucking money. But I digress.
You know what I read that when before Clinton's got in, that Obama was in $24 million in debt. In the Democrat Party sold the debt off to Clinton, and that's why they tanked Bernie Sanders. It was because of the money that they had, Clinton bought the debt, and she got paid off with a seat at the table during that election. And thank God for this guy right here, the rightful president of the United States.
Yeah.
Thank God for that guy right there, because he absolutely messed up their plans. He was the stopper and the disruptor. And his election is going to be happening next Tuesday, God willing. And God protect him and God willing, and everybody get out there and defend him as an American, not as a president, but as an American who had his rights violated. It's the rules. It's what we're supposed to be doing by the Constitution.
You
And
know,
vote on election day, because that's what the Constitution tells you to do.
That's right. I'm not voting early. I'm voting election day, and the consequences be damned. I'm going to follow the law.
well, you know what? I plan on doing the same, and it's really important. I'd actually like to point out that in Michigan, our Constitution actually has this really important clause here. Article 2, Section 1, qualifications of electors. Residents. Every citizen of the United States who has attained the age of 21 years, this is our Constitution, who has resided in this state 6 months and who meets the requirements of local residence provided by law, which is 30 days, shall be an elector and qualified to vote in any election except as otherwise provided in this Constitution. The legislator shall define residence for voting purposes, and that's 30 days. So this is something that if you just try to do a search, good luck. All right. Everything will show you the 30-day rule. But the reality is our Constitution actually requires that you have 6 months. Now, in 2022, they passed this garbage that allows same-day voter registration. Well, the problem with same-day voter registration is, how do you validate someone's proof that they've been a resident for 6 months? And are poll workers really being trained to check? No, they're saying sign an affidavit that says you are. I'm sorry, but at what point do you check to make sure that that person actually has been a resident for 6 months of the jurisdiction that they said, that they're not a foreign national, that they're so this, and then this goes into the UCAVA ballots, right? We have in Michigan 80,000 or something like that potential, or sorry, 80% of 25,000. Let me just get that right. Are non-military alleged U.S. citizens abroad. 80% of 25,000. Now, anybody who knows or has gone in and looked at our voter rolls that have been made public, or any of the stuff that's posted out there, and has done a little bit of reconnaissance, can go in, find these names, and request ballots at bogus addresses, or they don't even have to request the ballots. They can literally just print them off and mail them in. Now, that's a significant number of potential votes that could be stolen. Realistically, we have created an insane number of loopholes in the system that could only be logically concluded that it was intended and created and designed with the intention to allow cheating and voting fraud. There's no other excuse for creating such a asinine system. In reality, there's basically zero safeguards, more or less. They don't prosecute people who sign an affidavit. It turns out they're not really there, or not really. How do you go back? Oh, somebody wrote down an affidavit. You go to the address, they're not there. How do you prosecute that person? I'm sorry, there's no way you can actually charge a crime to someone. It's all for show. It's all bogus. So someone yesterday I was explaining this to, and they're like, no, I had to show my ID. I was like, you showed yours, but did you try not showing? All they would have had to do is sign a piece of paper. That's all you had to do. And this just boggles the mind that anybody would think that this is a good idea. That, oh, we want to enfranchise a bunch of non-citizens. Look, there's a lot of non-citizens that don't like us, that don't like our country, and would love to just sow dissent and destroy our nation from inside. And they've been allowed to just freely come into the country in mass. By the way, some of them are coming in with diseases that they're immune to all of our antiviral and antibiotics. I mean, this new tuberculosis strain that came through, I don't know if you guys have heard about that. There was even rumors of a strain of anthrax that made its way through. You know, there's so much stuff going on that is being withheld from the public because they don't want people to get scared. Their whole focus is on keeping people from panicking.
Yeah, because it's much easier to kill people when they're not panicking. And so they're just going to kill us and hopefully have us be like peaceful as they kill us, right?
It's like the slaughterhouse, right?
Yeah.
Where they bring them through the slaughterhouse. The meat is more tender if you kill them. Yeah, that's the exact same thing. When they're not panicking or frantic.
Cannibalism situation going here, because I kind of believe that this stuff is actually going on by these freaks, you know? So
the Haitian cannibals?
Well, not just them. I mean, there's some other stuff going on out there, actually, you know. So, I mean, I think we gotta like question everything here, because I think these people are complete and utter freaks, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to focus on the elections right now because we got a few more days of this shenanigans to get through, and then and the other end of it, we do need to fix the broken parts of the system that they broke. It's not terribly difficult, you know, to redo some of the shenanigans that they've done, but it is going to be difficult in some of the jurisdictions where we've lost total control. Michigan's one of those jurisdictions. Look, the three witches at the top should have been recalled, right? We should have ran recalls and should have removed Benson and Nessel for sure, absolutely Nessel, and Benson, it's a pretty slam dunk case there. And Whitmer with the COVID stuff. There's no reason why we didn't recall her before 22.
Oh, they should have been impeached. They should have just full out just impeach them. I mean, get them out of there. I
well,
mean,
now we don't have the votes to do an impeachment now, but then they could have.
They could have, and they did nothing.
But recall is still a recourse that we do have, and so that's a frustration of mine, is that we have the power to recall these people, and we're not. So that tells me a couple of different things. Either people are nefariously misleading on our potential recourse methods, or they're trying to make sure that these individuals stay and are in a position of power when things go south, because they don't want to take the blame. Because I think that they're anticipating, you know, that they let in a bunch of violent revolutionaries. And if we look at how the Bolsheviks planned to invade Europe, they were going to do it on the bayonet point of the Red Army through revolution. And so the idea was that you have a bunch of people cause a bunch of problems and spur a revolution in Poland, for example. And then the Red Army comes in as the rescuers to save and stabilize the country. And I believe that's exactly what we have that's being prepared to be executed against Americans here in the short order. Jamie Raskin has said, you know, be prepared for civil war conditions if Donald Trump wins. I think the Democrats are already planning it. I think that's part of their toolkit. And look, at some point it's unavoidable, because they are evil. They're demon. Many of them are demon possessed, I believe. They exude a level of hate that's just beyond logic and reason, and most of it's, you know, because they've been such emotionally traumatized repeatedly in the information that they're ingesting through mainstream media. Everything's hate, and they say Trump's the fascist or whatever. But on the other side, look at the words that they use. Everything is hate and vitriol, and that is all emotionally traumatizing. They are emotionally traumatizing their base, their supporters, because they want to be able to action them when the time comes to be violent. And that's the reality. On our side, look, I haven't said anything hateful. I said, you know, the witches, which I think that they're probably actually trying to cast spells at times, but I haven't said anything vitriolic. I haven't said anything suggesting anyone commit violence, right? I believe that we all should love each other and that we can all get through this. And I'm not espousing any sort of rhetoric that would incite violence. I don't believe. So if you look at what they're doing, they get so irate and frustrated because the reality is logic and love is on our side.
But you know, you can call things for what you see them. I mean, you got Whitmer there giving a Dorito communion to someone and then looks at the camera like all kinds of spooky. I mean, what a bunch of nonsense. I mean, not only was that like poor taste, she's like a classless piece of nothing there. I mean, what do you have? You know, you've got somebody who's governor of the of Michigan, and she goes out specifically to alienate and piss off half of the state by doing something that stupid, you know, just to like in your face. I can't even. If you're not mad at her, you're not normal. Okay. You got to have a little bit of a reality that she is a real piece of trash.
Well, this goes back to the sex cults and Epstein Island and all the rest of that.
I wanted to know what's happening to the gal that's on her knees that's taking the Dorito. That's kind of what was my next question is like, because, you know, it's like, I got no like belief that they're going to do the right thing. You know, I just don't. Sorry, guys, nobody carded me for this life. They didn't card me for this life. So I'm like sitting here going, what the hell's going on here?
Well, I think we have a lot of backups also. I heard a very good friend of mine gave me a hit, and he said something. He said, watch out for Starlink, and he said, watch out for a lot of packet captures that are coming from other countries. So it's not just, you know, we're being focused on fires in containers, holding votes, people's votes and stuff like that. Meanwhile, we have other invasions that nobody's really looking at except for maybe Elon Musk. He may just have an eye on what's coming in to those Dominion machines from other countries. And it's the same thing, and we learned this from the 2020 election. And so that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, let's. I'd like to also bring. So there's a whole nother aspect to that, right? And that is that you don't need to necessarily remote in for some of these shenanigans. We've seen with like Ruby Freeman, for example, they had USB thumb drives, and if you go back, I was in CENTCOM just before Stuxnet was launched, and I'm familiar with, you know, jumping air gap systems, and USBs is the method for doing that. It was one of the preferred methods. And so jumping these alleged air gapped election voting systems through the use of thumb drives that, look, CISA failed to even shut that down. They should have shut it down long ago. They never did. We got elements within our government that are bad. I think that they're bad actors. I think they're completely not doing the right thing. I think they could totally clean this all up, and they could have cleaned this all up a decade ago. I think a lot of this stuff has actually been out in, you know, you talk about waking up the American people and the public. You remember the Tea Party? You remember how, like, man, it was beautiful. People were having barbecues and everyone was coming together and they were exposing all this corruption and everyone was sharing all these stories. Look, we had a great awakening in this country, and it was shut down by the initial stages of this woke agenda to divide and conquer, and that was bringing Obama in, and this whole, you know, oh, we're gonna elevate and everyone's gonna be equal, and bringing all this equality in the mix, right? They suppressed and mitigated the Great Awakening over a decade ago. So this isn't, you know, the first attempt, and we've got to be vigilant for that. We can't, you know, let our guards down. This may be our last chance to recover the United States that you know, that I fought for the Constitution and the oath that I swore.
this is our last chance. This is all that we got. What they had, this has been in play for decades. And whoever said that Donald Trump interrupted that, that is 100% true. But the Democratic Party, they operate on emotions. And that's why I mentioned that thing about, you know, the burning of the ballot boxes and stuff. That's all propaganda. You need to stop paying attention to any of that garbage. That's what they want you to see. They want you to be focused on that type of stuff so that you're not looking where you actually need to. And a lot of people, like, you know, I get sent hundreds of videos a day. I talk to a large amount of people, and you have content creators that are using fear tactics to try to create monetary gain for themselves, and that is happening on both sides of the party. Whatever your motivation is, whether it's to steal the election or to make you a little bit of money, or if you're dealing with these illegal immigrants or the children. I mean, it's across all boards at this time. The people are so propagandized that they are walking around like fucking chickens with their head cut off, and they needed someone to guide them, and that person is Donald Trump. Now, I'm not going to be facetious and say that Donald Trump's going, if Donald Trump wins, we have a real shot at restoring this country, and not only restoring it to its former glory, because most people say, when was the United States ever good? I've always been proud to be an American. So to me, the United States is good, and we're good now. We just have to get out the people that want to control us, put us in debt-based societies, poison our bodies and our minds. It's not intended. How our country operates now has our forefathers like doing freaking cartwheels in their grave. I mean, they really went through the most. That our Constitution is so in depth and covers things that I would have never even thought of as a person. So if you think of what they was going through when the Constitution was written, then you should have some appreciation for this country, and you should always know that it's good. But we have to take out, and it starts by being loud and not being fearful and not running on emotions. Because if you continue to run on emotions, you'll just end up in the same fucking place that you were in the first place. And we need to get rid of all these shady ass, greedy, egotistic people that are controlled by the deep state and all these oligarchs. And we need to give this country back to the citizens, because it's the citizens that are suffering right now. It's them that are having trouble getting food and paying their gas prices and their electric bills. It's the citizens. It's not the people in our government that are supposed to represent us. They're living fine with all their fucking houses. It's us. So in order for anything to change, it has to be us that stands up. Nobody else can do it but us. This is our country, and we need to get that in our minds and operate with that and go forward with that. Because if Donald Trump doesn't win, I am not sure what the other side of that coin is, because I know a lot of Americans right now that will not accept Kamala Harris as the president of the United States. Never.
Well, she can't be. She's disqualified already.
Yeah, I was just gonna say she's not even qualified.
She's not qualified. She's not a natural born citizen.
Well, people, yeah, and I know that, and we all know that, but the mass population, they breeze by that, just like Obama's fake birth certificate. You know, if you go to that file on the White House page, you can put that in a photo editor, and it's multiple different documents. Like, come the fuck on. They're showing you all of this. All of that data is there. You just have to be willing and fucking smart enough to stand up and find it. And the moment you do, you've got those motherfuckers.
Christine, I don't understand what you're talking about Kamala. I mean, you've got to find the finders that actually found it, the finding things in which we are going to refine our country. And we are going to just find a new finding that our founders found a long time ago.
Listen, we've got to unbound
what has been bound.
Oh, and absolutely. And
I don't know about you guys, but are you up for having a hyena for a president? Because that's what she seems like. You know, it's like I can't even look at the woman's face when she starts that fake laughing, because it's like a fake laughing nonsense. I'm like, are you kidding me?
So just to, I gotta throw this out there, right? Like, is it possible that we were all just participants in a movie? That this whole thing was recorded for the last 4 years, every aspect up and down, so they could create the greatest production of all time? Because guess what? We ran out of content. They've just been regurgitating the same old stuff nonstop for the last, I don't know, decade. The remake of this, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? It's the same thing. Everything's a different rehash, just a couple of different, switch out some characters. Now they're just changing the ethnicity of characters. It's like, man, you guys really have lost all sense of creativity, haven't you? Maybe it's because we're in a fishbowl and this whole thing is just, the greatest production on earth.
Listen, I asked my social economics teacher that at the age of 21. I said, I really feel like I'm like some character in a book and someone is just reading this shit. I think I was 20 when I asked that. 2021, somewhere around there. Yeah. I've been questioning that for a while.
I think we're all in the book of the Island of Misfit Toys, if you really want to know the truth. But at least we're happy misfit toys.
Hey, I'll be a misfit all day long as I got my rights. You can call me whatever it is you want to.
I think good ending.
What's that?
I think the book will have a good ending. The
I
movie.
do too, because you can't kill the American spirit. And look at all of us. We're so freaking ornery set and fed up with their nonsense. It's not even funny. Can you even imagine? Can you even imagine what happens if somebody actually comes, one of these little snowflakes and one of these little soy boys, one of these little Antifa, ridiculous people. Oh, I got a great Antifa story for you guys too. This is great. And watch them come up against an actual adult who's completely sick of their shit. It's going to be glorious. I had my billboard, the one that had this sign on it, plus Trump 2020 on the billboard, right? Because you guys heard me tell the story, right? If you didn't, go catch the rerun or something. But anyhow, I went in a parking lot and I was driving around in my big pickup truck with my dog and my cowboy hat, my cowboy boots and such. And I go around this parking lot, right? And I see this line of guys that are over there that they're clearly there to be disruptors in Antifa. So I went and I parked my truck with my billboard right in front of it. And it's like, hey, looks like you guys want a discussion. How about we have a talk right here? Because I figured I was going to stop them before they got into the crowd. And I got my camera out and I started recording this. And I'm like, I don't know what your deal is, but if you're going to stand over there and you want to be part of the crowd of actual people that have a discussion, why don't you start right here? And they started getting all kinds of uncomfortable. They were like this and didn't know which way to do it. So I kept pushing it a little bit with them. And it's like, you know what? It's like, you little freaking soy boys. It's like, I go back to that statement that, I have horses, which means I have pitchforks. I can throw a metric ton of hay and take a kick from a half-ton animal. You little Weasley pipsqueaks will be no problem, guaranteed. and they literally turned around and walked away from the crowd. It was epic. So I don't think they're as big and as puffed up as they want to make everybody think. And you know what? You get somebody like you, Jason, and you, Frank, that have toxic masculinity and bring on toxic masculinity. Guys, go handle business there. They got a real problem. I mean, if they came up against my husband, guaranteed people would lose body parts and it would be unpretty.
Yeah, well, no, to me, that would be pretty.
Yeah, every guy out there right now is going, go Brandenburg, go, right? Because it's like everybody knows what we're talking about. It's like, I'm going to sit back and say, Jason, be my guest. Go beat the hell out of these people if they need to. I'm dead serious. I'm kind of dead serious here. It's like with the cartels. why are we not like labeling them domestic terrorists and or foreign terrorists or terrorists of some sort, and send in some like some SEALs or some Braves or something like that, Green Berets, and go handle business. You know, I'm pretty extra sure that they're capable.
Why would we do anything with the cartel? They're making a bunch of money off of them.
Well,
Yeah, well, you know, not if we start dropping things on them that make them like really ineffective at walking around on the planet.
What they're doing, that's how they are trying to cripple our society. What they have done to the white man in this fucking country is disgusting to me. So I don't know what white fucking privilege you guys had, but we were taught to work all our lives for our retirement and Social Security that we ain't gonna get. So I ain't never had no fucking white privilege. But the male population, the white male population, they do everything they can. You're not supposed to talk about your feelings. Pro men don't cry. I mean, just the whole lot of it, and how they are portraying the white man right now. If you're a white man, you work, you got a house that you worked your whole life on, you get up every day, you're the fucking problem, not the person that is sitting on our social welfare fucking system, sucking the tit of the United States of America. It's you that worked your ass off. This country is, listen, I'm driving.
Christina,
And
you're
so you know what? This is where the girls like defend the guys, the real women, because real women love and defend our guys and say, I'm really glad you can lift heavy stuff. I'm really glad that you can run into something like that and have the physicality to actually accomplish major things as you defend your families. I love that. If that's toxic masculinity, bring that on, because you know what? I make the best pies in the whole world. I can bring pies to feed after the battle. That would be great, right? I would absolutely pull the trigger on starting the battle and then make sure that it was absolutely, you know, had the logistics there and made sure that everything was right. You know, people, this is the craziest thing, guys. People wanted me to go down to the border when I was running for governor. And I'm like, you got to be out of your mind. Why would you want me to go down to the border for a photo op? I'm 60 years old here. Why do we not have like a bunch of 30-year-old Marines that can like run 4 miles, throw me over the shoulder, anybody else, get them out of trouble? No, you got the weakest link here, right? In a physical state. I'm not going to be hardly any help at all. So I'm like, I'm not going down to the border. I want some.
Donna, we have a border here. You don't have to go down to that border. We're Michigan. We have our own border.
I can do this, but you know what? I would rather have 30 Jason Ike sitting there than one Donna Brandenburg who's going to have to be carried out after I'm wheezing after running 3 miles, right?
Just fake it like Kamala Harris did with the plane and the Helene donation shit. But I'm a pretty capable woman, Miss Donna. I mean, I can do more things than most men these days. But there are... I agree with you. Right. I'm serious. Like, I am serious when I say that. I can do more than most 21-year-olds. Physically, mentally, and emotionally these days. It's just the stock I came from. But the last thing I want to do is be carrying fucking 50 million bags of groceries in and out of my house by myself, or you know, changing my own fucking oil. Like, I get that we should all be equal, but at the end of the day, we're not fucking equal, okay? Men can do more things that women can do, just like women can multitask and have the ability to...
I gotta disagree with you. I gotta disagree with you there. We're all equal. We're all equal in rights. We were all endowed with unalienable rights by our Creator, and those are equal.
Yeah, we all have equal opportunities, but I'm going to tell you, we're not equal when it comes to running a track meet. I can tell you that right now. And you want to know why? Because I'm going to tell you what, you know what gets in the way of me winning a track meet? We have hips to carry babies, right? You ever watch a woman who has actual hips try to run? We look like the stupidest people on the whole planet. Yeah. It's like, yeah, right. I'm not going to compete against a guy. I'm sorry.
It's got to be better for doing hurdles though.
What's that? Oh, for doing hurdles.
Okay, so getting back to what Christina said about the cartels, you have to link that to the open borders that we've had for years and years and years. This is all politics run by what? Cartels. We have politicians in there like Mayorkas. He's a cartel leader. Okay. He is cartel. Biden is cartel. All these people that we're talking about are all cartel. They all want the borders open so that they can perform their cartel duties. You have to understand that's what we're up against. And our government.
It's actually, Chris, it's called the syndicate. So all of these cartels are all run by the syndicate. The syndicate is the overarching infrastructure behind all of the cartels, the politicians, the intelligence communities, the global governance system. It's the syndicate.
This is a tactic that I learned, that you take those puppets, those people, those cartels that I'm focusing on right now, that are across the border, that are engaging in the drug dealing and the transferring and all the trafficking. You get rid of the people that are at just under what you talked about. You take those people away, and it can be done like that. Then those sons of bitches that are up there that are hiding have to come out. They're going to fall. There's no one that they have to operate for them. And then you go after them. You have to start at the person that gave the order. That person, that cop that took an oath to protect us, took an order to stand down. Okay, in the great state of Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, that the fires were burning. People were dying. And the cops took an order. And there's such a thing as a wrongful order, an illegal order. And those cops that stood down are just as guilty as the people that gave the order. I'm going to tell you something. What they should have done was they should have arrested the person that gave them that order. That would be probably their chief. Then you find out from the chief who gave you the order to go ahead and tell me not to protect my citizens that I swore an oath to do. Who told you to do that? Oh, well, the mayor did. Okay, then you go after the mayor.
Well, the problem is those law enforcement have, the moment they try to do that, this is what we did this one time and now we're back at it. It turns out that all of the courts are captured, and the courts are captured by the intelligence community. They place the judges there. So when you go to try to prosecute corrupt people, turns out they're all covering each other's backs because long ago someone already tried this. And so they have what's referred to as a consolidation of power. They've consolidated the power of the courts. They've consolidated the power of the government apparatus, and there's a reason why they've been able to execute everything that they've been able to do, and that's because they have the entire system captured. What we are doing now is we have pushed the system to the breaking point where the mask has been removed, right? According to Christina, right? Everybody's awoke or has been awakened, and now the mask, the scales are off the eyes. And yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Okay, here's where I'm at, and I agree with you 250%. Okay.
Ooh, that's kind of a good score there, Jason.
Now, since you've gone ahead and you've basically laid out what is, this is where the Constitution plays the most important role. You go back to the Constitution, our foundation. What did the fathers say when what you just said happens? What does the Constitution tell us, the American people, to do? They tell us that if a government ever goes ahead and goes against its people, it is not only the duty, but it is the right of the people to take out that government and to replace it with a Republican form of government. It's in the Constitution.
I think
it's our responsibility.
I don't think it's in the Constitution.
Right, it's a responsibility.
Just to correct, I believe it's the Declaration of Independence.
That's right. And that is the very first page of the Constitution.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that because it's the founding, it's the reason that the Constitution has a right to exist is our Declaration of Independence, which says that men have the right.
That's the foundation.
Yes, it is the foundation of that, the Constitution. Yes.
And that is why we have the power to do exactly what I said.
Yep.
It's a beautiful
somebody
thing.
said something about a tree of tyranny or something. Something about blood.
I just want to hang one.
Well, that's pretty ineffective, Chris, because the rest of them are going to come running out of the corners of the room like a bunch of cockroaches, you know? They'll start to defend the one that's already gone just for a little bit until they realize that, oh, crap moment, the next one's going to be me, you know? And so I just hope that we have a lot of domestic rope manufacturers here. I'm kind of a fan of this whole thing that once we get the country back, we need to be growing hemp, because hemp, you can make you make everything out of hemp. You can make plastics out of hemp that are stronger than steel. You can do all kinds of things. You can chill people the heck out with that. You can make rope. And if we got enough rope in the state of Michigan, we can make sure that everything here is running exactly the way that it should be. Fear the hemp. That's why they didn't want hemp here. It wasn't for any other reason that they were afraid they were all going to get hung on it.
We have to go back to the Constitution, and we as people have to understand what our Bill of Rights, our independence, Declaration of Independence, right back to the Magna Carta and everything. I mean, we as a people have been denied and dumbed down in the education of what we are as a people. This is founded by God. This is a God thing. This isn't a people thing. This is a God thing. And look at us. We're bouncing off the walls because we're not looking at what really founded this country. What really deal, you know? And that
Chris, I've got the declaration. Let me just read let me read the first paragraph here. The Declaration of Independence. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
Bye-bye, all of them.
Go on. Go on.
Oh, you wanted the rest? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, derived their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object invices a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide a new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their form former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. And then it lists all the facts. So, but yeah, that's the.
Well,
That's not what you can do for your country.
to replace Trump. Fight.
That's
fight.
Yeah, put your hand up when you do that, okay? So that's really, what a great thing to think about is, no matter what you go through. I mean, I bet you guys have seen, those of you that in here that have had active duty, which I know that's the case, that you've seen people that when they're down and out, they keep going in those acts of heroism and valor, and they never stop, and I mean, right now we've got God's protection yet. We're seeing some things that are really making us upset and angry, but you guys have seen actual combat. And I'll bet you've seen people that have done amazing things when they were down, and they just kept going. They just kept going because of what they believed in. They fought for what they loved. And there's no excuse for any of us not to do the same thing. We may be going through some tough times right now. It doesn't matter. We're Americans. We're mutts. We're the toughest thing running on this planet, right? And it's like, there's no way that we're going to lay down to a bunch of cowards and cheats and liars. We're not laying down to this. They're worthless. They're like bottom feeders. They produce nothing. They do nothing. They know nothing. They're dumb, right? And all we got to do is we just got to keep going because the American mutt and that American spirit is just, it's the greatest thing. And what, this country was founded on God Almighty, and they didn't pull any punches with what God we're talking about. They were talking about the God of the Bible, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. They said this in the day of our Lord is in so many of the documents and such. They didn't say in the day of whomever God we decide to turn to right now because of whatever's trendy or the universe says or any of this nonsense. They said the day of our Lord. That is an absolute validation that they absolutely founded this country on the God of the Bible, on Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Mm-hmm. And realizing that we as Americans, that's what this was founded on, Yep. And I mean, they didn't leave a whole lot of leeway for interpretation on that. But, with that said, we have, I have friends that are not Christian. I love them. And we don't get into these crazy debates and such because, they have the right to believe as they wish in this nation. Correct.
Just to sum that up, the reason why we always win, and we always will, and we're going to win this also, just like you said, in a different term, is definitely God. Is because we don't fight for money. We don't fight for statues. We don't fight for false gods or emotion. We don't fight for emotion. We fight, and we have heart. We have love for God. We will die for God because Jesus died for us. They don't have that. That's why we always win. And that's the spirit you're talking about. Because when we're on the ground and we pull that trigger and it doesn't go off and we get something back, it doesn't matter. We're still moving forward. And we'll throw the gun at them. We don't give a shit because it's about our heart. It's about God's heart. That's the unity right there that makes us winners.
And it'll be us that defends people that we even disagree with, because it's God's creation. And that's coming from you, Chris, a guy who actually died, saw the other side and came back, And I mean, there's so much that we have to be thankful for. Nobody needs to be afraid to go forward. No one needs to be afraid at all. Right. And I love sharing stories of, when people die and they come back like you did. I mean, we've had so many discussions about this. Amazing. And, it's like those times that, we can face things like, facing things that writing the nation, it's like I faced cancer, and it was like, there's so many things that we face that are difficulties in our lives. This is just one more page and one more difficulty, one more day. Take it a day at a time. Deal with the things that are in front of you. Don't get overwhelmed with this, because I really think that God's going to hand this over to us and say, he rewards our intention. And he knows what our hearts are. He knows that we're doing it for the right reason. And those people that are doing it for the wrong reason, he knows that too. Pretty extra sure he's sick of it. And as father, you're going to be in timeout like forever. Okay. It isn't going to end well for that sort of thing. When you step on other people that, as a dad, think about dad, but with like a million more firepower than the dad that you grew up with, right? He's not going to put up with this stuff. So you need to get your heart right and realize that first and foremost, we do it for the things and the people we love. And there's no money that can ever buy us out of that can change our minds, that can compromise it, because we're not built from that. We're built differently. We're a peculiar people. We do things that don't make sense to the money-grubbing liars, cheats, and thieves. Doesn't make sense to them, because we do it because of honor. We do it because it's the right thing to do. And you want to know something? The fact that we have the ability to do good things is the reward in itself. I'm not looking for a reward in heaven. The reward is doing the right thing. The reward is doing things that are, make God happy, just because, he allowed us to do that. There is no monetary gain that can ever replace that. It's just do the right thing.
And it's funny. It's not funny, but it's awesome you said that, because this morning before we even went on, the thought pops in my head that God wants us. The question is, well, how do we fight back? How do we fight back? This is evil. It's so overwhelming. You know how you fight back? You don't give in to temptation. You don't give in to what evil wants you to do, or that thought that creeps into your head. Instead, you throw that away and you go to God. You go, God, this is what's up. Or you, Satan, stand behind me, get behind me. You move forward that way. That's how you fight. You don't give the devil or the evil any ammunition or any food. That's his food. When you go ahead and you do the temptation that comes to you and you serve evil, that's his food. That's his strength. What if everybody took that food away from evil? It would die. It would just die. Yeah.
It's looking for just a little crack in the armor there, and then all of a sudden things start to crumble. You've got to stay. He gave us the instruction book there, the instruction book on how to keep ourselves out of trouble, because we're our own worst enemy every single time. Absolutely. If you follow the instructions, they're pretty simple. There's 10 of them at the beginning of the book. Pretty simple instructions, right? You follow that. He gave that to us, like saying, that's like Dad saying, don't run out in front of the truck, and you're dumb enough to run out in front of the truck and squish. Listen to those commandments. You avoid getting squished. He made the rules. It's his sandbox. We just got to listen to him. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's too simple.
Okay. So, well, this has been awesome. I love you guys. This is so great. We've got the toxic masculinity here on the right. You've got the mouthy women on the left. It's fantastic.
That's what it's about.
Sounds like a plan made in heaven to me.
I think so. So let's do this. I'm going to say prayer, and ask God's blessings here, and then each one of you, we're going to go to Christina, because girls first. Sorry, guys. And then Christina, Chris, and Jason. Okay. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for Christina, for Chris, and for Jason, in that order right now, because that's the way the prayers are going to come next. And I ask your blessings upon each and every one of them, and your favor rest mightily upon them. Give them a strong voice and a strong bodies, good health, and your blessings on them, your provision on them, and give them so much joy for this day, that they would be, it's just amazing that they're willing to come here and share all of their knowledge, their wisdom, the things that they know, that they've learned, to teach everyone, all of us out there, the things that we just don't know, because we all have such different gifts that you've given us. and perspectives and such. And when we're really great is when we stand together and we regard each other as family, as brothers and sisters. And we work for each other's goods because we love each other so intensely. You've given us such a great gift. Our treasure lies in you, in doing those good works that you give us, You don't need us to do them. We know that, but you let us do them. Like, mom and dad let the kids make cookies. We're going to spill things around. We're not going to get it quite right, but you give us the ability to learn and to walk with you. And we're so thankful. We ask that you give Christina travel mercies, you give Chris good health, you give Jason every good thing on this world to enable them to do the wonderful things that you called us to do. And bless every single person out there. Let them know that they're loved, that you're standing with them, and that no matter how bad they've screwed anything up in their lives, that they can come to you and ask for forgiveness and accept your salvation, the gift of salvation that was a price paid by Jesus Christ, and that they can come right in and they'll be welcome, and everybody, and we'll all rejoice and know that we've got a wonderful, wonderful future ahead of us. Please bless the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump. Bless our country in turning so many hearts to him. Bless all the liars, cheats, and thieves out there, and have them just like put their arms up and surrender and say, we screwed up and we did the wrong thing, and we're getting behind President Trump because you know what? They were the ones that caused it. Have them repent, turn back, and we would rejoice at that. Thank you so much for staying. You've been a great friend to us, and we want to be a friend to you too. We love you. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray, amen.
Amen.
Oh, my 30 seconds. Okay, well, it's the same skill.
You can have more than that. Just go.
I say this all the time. The future is very important, not necessarily for us because we look like a bunch of old folk here, but for our children. I don't know which president said that each generation, or who said it, stands on the shoulders of the one before them, but that is absolutely the truth. And even if you have a hard time being one of those people that are willing to stand up and take the sacrifices, because their consequences will require our sacrifices, that is for sure. Just try to exist within compassion with each other. We are human beings that have human nature. So while we're going through this event in our lives, we need to remember what we're working so hard for. Because even after you're long gone, this country, this land that we fought so hard for, will still exist. So operate within compassion to each other, and just know that some people are fucking stupid. Okay, they all can't be smart. So just be compassionate and try to preach the truth. You do those two things, and I think you'll be all right.
And I gotta
Don't
say,
let these motherfuckers scare you.
And bring a dog with you because you can see the dog nose on the window. So the dog was sniffing your window behind you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was her first trip. She's a rescue. She did good. She didn't really react like I thought she would. She did a lot better. When I get these rescues and they're aggressive like that, you really don't know how they're. So you prepare for everything. Like I clip her lead around my waist because this dog is so strong. She came from Kentucky, and I don't know what inbreeding crap this was, but her muscles are like freakishly strong. And I'm like, man. So yeah, we've got a good time though. Good times.
There you go, Chris.
I'm gonna pass to Jason.
No words. When the hell does this happen?
I just want to hang one. That's all. Just one.
Just one word? What's your word?
No. I gotta pass this to Jason. Jason, go ahead.
You're funny, Chris. You're never without words. This is funny. So, okay, I know you well enough to be friends with you and give you a little shade here.
I'm gonna recite one more passage in the Declaration of Independence for everybody on a closing note here. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. And I just want to point out that Kamala Harris was in charge of the border. She's the vice president of the United States. And we have been humbly petitioning to close the border down, to fix these election problems. And yet we have been repeatedly injured. And the courts have allowed it.
Very good interpretation of the Constitution.
Kamala is a failure, and every single person that died because of somebody that crossed that border, that blood is on her hands, and as well as everybody that's in office, because they didn't stop it. They had the ability to stop it. They didn't stop it. And
they enabled a foreign invasion.
They sure did. And you know what? The really amazing thing is that some of us have a long memory. We're never going to forget this. And certainly God is going to have justice on this, and it's not going to end well for them whatsoever. And, I think that this nonsense is going to come to an end pretty quick. And I'm thinking, nonstop flights to Gitmo. I don't even want to send some of these people back home that participated in this. We need nonstop flights, pack them in like sardines. There's no reason to give them a 747 or something. Get them in the C-130s. Ship them off to Gitmo, one-way ticket to a nice, warm, sunny place. Goodbye, bye-bye, you failed. I think that's an important way to look at this.
I'll say Mayorkas, Biden, Harris, all three are traitors. All three of them aided, abetted, and participated in the invasion. In fact, they flew him in. And they admitted it.
Yeah.
They are little traitors.
I'll add one to that list, and that's General Milley.
Well, obviously, he's the first one to.
Kind of a pathetic individual, isn't he? So yeah. They're all pathetic. I think Mayorkas needs to be first on, first off, first prosecuted. Bye-bye. Bad choices have consequences. So,
I want them all brought before Congress, before the people, to answer for everything they did. I want to hear the insanity that they believed to go down the path that they went, because I want the American people to understand the mental the mental capacity of these individuals, because I really think that many of them are part of this death cult depopulation agenda, and they bought onto this whole narrative that there's no way that the world can sustain more than 10 billion people, and so they believe that what they're doing is ensuring that humanity can go on. And I think that they believe that they did it for legitimate reasons. I think that once it becomes apparent, and maybe it's not, maybe they're just straight evil, and I want that displayed for all of humanity to know and understand, so that way we don't have this problem, or at least we can see it better in the future.
We need to videotape their testimonies too, so people don't forget, and have it public so that people can see it. We tape it so that nobody ever forgets this never happens again. We can't ever allow this to happen ever again. And if we do it right, who knows? We have 1,000 years of peace if we do it right. But it's going to have to be some pretty sincerely decisive cuts of
Nuremberg trials were what, 75 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we got 4 generations before we're gonna probably have to deal with it again.
I don't know. If you do it right, maybe we'll never have to do it again. You just got to make enough deep cuts in this, You have enough consequences, like substantial consequences, that to do the nonsense they've done and the criminality, evil that they've done, that they never even think about it again. They couldn't manage their toys, so they get the toys taken away. That's the way it is. Mom's saying it right there. Toys go into toy prison. They never come out. They're done. It's over. So anyhow, let's go to that. Here's the point of the show, boys and girls, where we go to ding, 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 go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceiver who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to have a discussion with the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, about this wearing cowboy boots. And that would be awesome. So with that said, you guys are amazing. I love you. You're so fun. And, you know, it's fun bringing the truth forward and being able to just sit here and laugh and not be all kinds of depressed and like, you know, nah, kind of stuff. You know, it's like we got stuff to do here. No crying in the gym. I used to work out a lot. You know, I was a power lifter when I was in my 30s. No crying in the gym. You get in there, you get strong, you do what needs to be done. And that's what we're going to do right now. So there you go. What's the pointing thing?
I'm trying to make my hearts and it won't do it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm driving and Apple has a new update. Siri told me today she could do some shit for me because I was driving, and I'm like, who are you, bitch? Like, who even are you? So
Siri can be great. Siri can be a problem.
Me and Siri are not getting along right now.
Siri, take it.
Looks like they didn't like our show.
There you go. All right, guys, here we go. God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. Starts here. You got to be mentally tough. Do the right thing. No matter if anybody does it around you or not, you can be the example if you don't have one. Refuse to give up. Refuse to step down. And right, you've got like how many days left? Oh, geez, I forgot to do my countdown on my Telegram channel. I got to do a recount here. That guy right there, that guy. Let's see, wrong way. That guy right there needs to have your vote, because we need to defend him as, there you go, as the rightful president of the United States, the Donald J. Trump, the American citizen who had his rights stomped on, and we need to do the right thing. So there you go. So love everything that the Trump family has done for all of us and all the brave people that have stepped forward to do the right thing. So we will see you Monday. And thank you guys for coming on. I love you intensely. And everybody's got to come back on Monday, because it's the day before the election. And we need to keep reminding people what is going on here so that they don't forget their duty to vote on, what is it, boys and girls? Election Day. So have a great weekend. Much love. Talk to you later.